What's up, Corey? How are you this morning, baby?
I'm good, man. Love the hat. Always love your hats.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. So let's just say it. How good is Florida State? Or better yet, we know they're good. Are they top 10 good right now?
Man, it's look, who knows, Jeff? I know that other than Georgia and Ohio State, I think they could beat anybody in the country the way they're playing. That doesn't mean they would, but I would be surprised if they played anybody else in the country and just weren't in the game in the fourth quarter. I mean, it's one thing to beat the likes of Syracuse and Miami. You don't beat the bejesus out of them like Florida State is doing. Like that's not that, Syracuse did have their quarterback. It didn't matter. Florida State just puts up points and yards on anyone, man. And it's not normal what's going on. I said that a bunch last night, but it's the truth. They're not just winning these games. They are dominating like it's 1994 again. This isn't what normally happens in college football in 2022, to go on the road and win 2 straight games by a total of whatever, 83-6. And the games weren't even that close, honestly. I mean, that game last night, the 38-3 that you're looking at there could have been 50-3, 52-3. I mean, they called off the Dogs pretty darn early, and yeah, it's just I think I think the way they're playing, you can't tell me there are 9 teams in the country playing better than them right now.
Yeah, it's interesting because we've watched them kind of graduate and grow up before our eyes. There were a lot of questions, and there are a lot of people watching us throughout the country right now on various On3 websites, and they may not be as tuned in to Florida State, especially after that little losing streak, but you've watched them come out from that and respond the way that a team who's taking the next step should, right? Which is you're not down on your luck, you're not self-pitying, you're not doing any of those things, you're going out and making a statement, and you're seeing it come to fruition. In particular, though, Corey, would you say the most surprising element, again, for people who are not locked in on Florida State, if at the beginning of the year, I would tell you that Florida State's offensive line is going to take turns dominating defensive lines, including the likes of Clemson, let's say, and that is going to be the strength of the team, is going to be the offensive line. Or if I told you that the Oregon transfer, Trey Benson, was going to emerge as quite possibly one of the best running backs in the country and will go into next season thinking as such, or that Jordan Travis would be a really good drop-back passer and not have to rely on his legs. What element would you say that has been most surprising about Florida State this year, especially now that they are dominating their opponents?
Probably the O-line, because, they've run for yardage since Norvell got here. They find ways to scheme it up. There are times in these games, though, where it's not just, hey, we're smarter than you. I mean, they're moving guys out of the way, pushing guys out of the way, proud defenses. Just moving them like they're, again, like it's 1995. In fact, Jeff, they had a note last night that Florida State has now rushed for over 200 yards in 5 straight games. That's the first time it's happened since Warwick Dunn was a junior in 1995. I mean, this is historical stuff. It's the first time they've scored 38 or more in 3 straight ACC conference games since, of course, 2013. And before that, it was 2001. So when you might hear Florida State media or fans getting excited about these last 3 games, you're looking at the competition. You're like, well, yeah, they were favored to win all those. Those aren't great teams they're beating. It's not that they're winning the games. It's how they're winning the games. And they're doing it so physically on both sides of the football, man. It doesn't seem like smoke and mirrors are just, we've got a good hotshot coach that's innovative. No, man. They are winning because they appear to be bigger and stronger and better than their opposition. Much better than their opposition, apparently.
Yeah, and the defense is where I want to shift to now, because I think we had question marks. I mean, earlier in the year, we were beginning to see signs that obviously the offense was going to take the next step. Jordan Travis was better as a passer. They didn't have to rely on him to just scramble and all that kind of stuff. You began to realize they were emerging there. They were better and deeper on the offensive line. They've had injuries there, but yet they were able to run. So you could see this, though. Receiving core was better. But I think defensively is now where we go, because I've mentioned before, and we've talked about it some, Corey, that the numbers look really good for this defense, but you're not real sure how believable it is, because some of the offenses that they've faced haven't been very good. And there have been moments like the Wake game, like the Clemson game, where they played some of the better offenses. They didn't get the stops they needed. How good is the defense? Because they're putting up right now dominating numbers. But what can we believe in about this defense right now?
Yeah, I don't know how you do WAR when it comes to college football defensive linemen, but apparently Fabian Lovitz would be off the charts. He's the defensive tackle for Florida State. They are very good when he's on the field. Just him being in the mix changes everything. He came back really 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And they have given up one competitive touchdown in 3 weeks, Jeff. You know, the Georgia Tech scored on the final play of the game when it was 41-10. Their only other touchdown was right after halftime after recovering the onside kick when they hit a 3rd and 16 play. That's the only touchdown Florida State's given up in 3 weeks. That's 23 straight drives. It's one touchdown in the last 28 drives. This is championship level stuff. And I still don't know if they're a championship caliber defense. Like, I still don't know if I truly believe it because of how bad the offenses have been that they've faced. But they're also making them look horrendous. Like, I watched that Miami offense on Saturday against Georgia Tech. It didn't look like a JV offense like the one that Florida State made it look like. So I think Florida State is impacting these games, impacting these offenses to the point where they look, somewhat childish. They look like JV, high school, middle school football teams. They don't do anything. To answer your question, once they play Florida, that's the litmus test, right? That's a real offense that they're going to face. They have not performed well against great offenses. They haven't performed horribly, but they haven't performed great. That's the litmus test. But it surely is a good sign that they are absolutely suffocating these teams, not letting them breathe. Like, Syracuse had 3 first downs. That's 3 straight games. The opponent has had less than 70 yards of offense at halftime.
It's a strange. We've watched transformations before at Florida State. You and I have covered that program, and we've seen them go from bad to good to great. It feels like they're certainly in the good, on the verge of possibly being great. If you project out from here for Florida State, for those that don't know, recruiting class-wise, Corey, final thing I'll ask you, how much of a jump do you see in the next 3.5, 4 weeks for this program now that has, the quote-unquote proof of concept stuff that you hear so often? They've certainly done that. Mike Norvell is solidified now. He's not going to be going anywhere. People can trust that, hey, whether it's a recruit or an assistant coach that he may want to bring in, the regime is safe. He's not going anywhere.
Well, they went from a team 2 years ago that was getting blown off the field by anyone with a pulse to now blowing everybody off the field. So when you talk about the proof of concept and you're a recruit, I get it. I get the guys 2 years ago not believing in what they were doing. How could you? You hadn't seen it. Well, now you have. So look, man, they're 17th now in recruiting rankings. Maybe they crack the top 12-ish, which I think is a good finish. It's that next class. It's these kids that are juniors that have watched this thing build now for 2 years that really start to believe in his message and what he's doing. And again, Jeff, we know it's 2022. This is the class of 2023. The portal is wide open. And Florida State has made its hay with the portal. And I think, again, you don't want to build your whole program with that. But I think there's going to be 6, 7, 8 spots that now they're going to have to be turning kids away because of what they're doing with these guys in the portal. You mentioned Trey Benson, Johnny Wilson, Jared Verse, Jermaine Johnson. Like, these guys are becoming stars at Florida State. So it's just going to, I think, the portal, again, will be a huge benefit for Florida State. And it really helps now that you're going to have 8 or 9 wins, maybe possibly 10, and go to an actual bowl game, man. The Noles are going bowling. What's going on here?
Back to the world of college football the way it's supposed to be, right? With some of the elite teams becoming elite again. Corey, always appreciate it, brother. Be well. Have a great rest of your Sunday.
I love you.
Love you too.